Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for joining in for the second week on this Bhagavatam live program rather. So today we'll be discussing from Canto 1, Chapter 2. And this Friday morning we have discussion in English. So with us, today's speaker is His Grace Revatipati Prabhu. I'll just briefly introduce Prabhuji and then we'll start our program for today. So because I know time is 1 hour, I remember after last program, many of you had suggested, why don't we have a 2 hours? So I'm not going to speak for long. I'll keep it short and concise. And I just add 1 or 2 lines to introduce His Grace Revatipati Prabhu. We discussed last time, Srimad Bhagavatam speaks about 3 subjects: Bhakta, Bhakti, Bhagavan. The center of Bhakta and Bhagavan is Bhakti, which means the Bhakti is the root of the connection between the two. And the most important aspect of Bhakti is Seva. What does Bhakti teaches us is to develop our service attitude. So if I have to, in a very short, speak about, introduce His Grace Revatipati Prabhu, I would say he is the one who epitomizes this concept of service attitude. Have the fortune to be with him for years together now, and I have personally observed and seen how he's dedicated to his service, to serving Guru and Gauranga, to serve all the Vaishnavas. So in one sense, he is the best person to speak on this very important subject of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is just because Prabhuji's schedule does not permit to come every week. I have to come once in a while, so you have to deal with me. Otherwise, today we're going to have not a theoretical session, but more of a session filled with realizations, which I'm pretty sure going to transform your heart. And with that, we'd like to welcome His Grace Revatipati Prabhu. He's one of my role models and teachers in Krishna consciousness and a constant guide and mentor. So Prabhuji, thank you so much for joining in. You may please unmute yourself. Thank you for joining in. This being your first session, I'll just very briefly just let you know how the program is going to go through. So we'll have around 1 hour of discussion. So your topic today is Chapter 2 of Canto 1. And after that, we generally have 30 minutes. Maximum we do it because it's a working day. So it's up to you. If your time permits, after your class ends, you can take questions. And the coordinator and the host for today would be Shikhar Prabhu. He'll join back and we'll take questions and ask questions on behalf of the audience, or I will facilitate audience to ask questions to you. So it's entirely up to your schedule, how much time you would like to permit after your session ends. And this is in English language, being a Friday morning. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for joining and taking out your time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm very happy to be with
Prabhuji,
you.
Volume, okay. Maybe at my end. Can you just say that again once?
Hare Krishna. Is my audio clear or there is some problem?
Perfect, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So I'm very happy to be with you, Mother Sundar, and with all the wonderful devotees from this Friday morning for this Bhagavatam session. Did I hear 30-minute session or I picked it wrong? How much time do I have?
Prabhuji, 1 hour. 1 hour.
1 hour.
We have a whole 1 hour for your overview of the chapter. After that, you can take question answers for 30 minutes.
Okay, that's good. And I'll share a PPT because I have copied it from Radhesham Prabhu's Bhagavad Rasmarya. That makes it easier for us to understand. A short prayer and do it. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Iti Namah Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashati Deshatari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Mukam karoti vacharam, gangayate girim. Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinadaram, Paramanandamadim Shri Chaitanya. Hare Krishna. So I'm extremely happy and glad, fortunate to be with all of you for the Bhagavatam session. And I will try to live up to the expectations of Mother Sundar. I'm trying to render some service compared to his voluminous service like Hanuman and like squirrel serving. But still it is good quality that is appreciating you in my small service. So today we are discussing on the second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Divinity and Divine Service. Srimad Bhagavatam in itself is a very, very special literature that we discussed in the introductory session. Radha Shampu spoke about it, later on Mother Sundar spoke about it. And I was also connected for my part, and somehow mystically, as soon as my turn came, and I got disconnected and I could not rejoin again. So I missed that part. But Srimad Bhagavatam is special. It is not just one amongst the Vedic literature. As we hear that as Krishna departed from this planet, then he again reincarnated in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Non-different. Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam are non-different. And the kind of loving reciprocation, loving exchanges, relationship, what we have with Krishna, the same kind of loving exchanges and reciprocation we can have with Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from proper sources and by contemplating on it, by meditating on it, one can actually experience the same emotions as one experiences on having a relationship with Krishna. This is the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's why Srimad Bhagavatam distinguishes and all other Vedic literature. And for us, it's also very special because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself relished it along with Sri Gadadhar Pandit, one not different from Radha and Krishna. So they themselves are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, so that's it's very important for us. And all our acharyas in the line, they have given elaborate commentaries and elaborations on different sections, different purports. Yeah. So that's why it's so special, because all our acharyas' realizations are also shared, in this Srimad Bhagavatam. So that gives us also the connection to their hearts and their thoughts and their mercy upon us. And Srimad Bhagavatam can be, discussed in great detail. One verse can be discussed for months altogether. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, when he spoke on the first verse, Srimad Bhagavatam spoke for 3 months continuously, 90 days on first verse in Dhaka. So it can be elaborated like that, or we may give an overview of the entire Bhagavatam, 12 cantos, also in 1 hour. So Srimad Bhagavatam is like a web of cotton. You can make a thread out of it and it can go for like several meters, or it can be just condensed in a very small piece and kept in the ear as a earbud. So like that, Srimad Bhagavatam can be in detail or in short. But we will be discussing the second chapter today. Also, Srimad Bhagavatam first canto is very special because Srila Prabhupada wrote the purport. He wrote these purports while he was preparing for his mission to go to West, as his spiritual masters ordered him to go to the West and propagate the message. So for preparation, he started writing commentary in English for the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the first time in the history of this creation that Srimad Bhagavatam was translated into English language. Till now it was there in Sanskrit and some acharyas have written in Bengali, but English was not there. So he took the commentary of all the acharyas and then dictated or translated his purports in English. And they are so divine. And these purports are written in the courtyard of Sri Sri Radha Damodar Mandir, near the Rupa Goswami Path, Samadhi Mandir and the Bhajan Kutir. So they are coming, with a special effect, with the depth of compassion of Srila Prabhupada's heart. So they are very special. And anyone who reads first canto can feel that speciality. The purports are so deep, so condensed, and so filled with Srila Prabhupada's compassion and kindness that one's heart really gets transformed. So with this first canto printed in 3 volumes, this was Srila Prabhupada's wealth, which he took with him from India to the West to distribute to the Western people. And it was only through the message of Srimad Bhagavatam that the world got Srila Prabhupada says that actually I'm not going as a preacher, I'm going as a servant of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam will go there and will preach and transform the hearts of all. And I'm just assisting Srimad Bhagavatam to be there. So that was Srila Prabhupada's mood. Also, Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, is compared to the lotus feet of the Lord. Entire Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to the deity of Krishna. And different cantos are, representing different limbs and different parts of that transcendental body of Lord. And first canto and second canto represent the two lotus feet of the Lord. So it's a very great meditation to take darshan and meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord. So it's very deep, very wonderful, brings us closer to the Lord. And further, the second chapter, what we are discussing today, is also very special because Srila Prabhupada, in his prayers on Jaladuta before he just reached America, he quoted verses from this second chapter. 5 verses he quoted, and declaring his faith in Srimad Bhagavatam's potency, and declaring his understanding and idea that how actually people will get transformed. Because when he saw that, in Boston, that skyline and all these buildings and people running here and there so fast, and his heart got filled with compassion, and he wondered that how will it be possible that people will actually understand the message of the Lord. And that's where he quotes these verses from this chapter, what we're going to discuss today, where he demonstrated his faith, because Krishna says that one who hears the message attentively, then all the Rajoguna and Tamoguna in the heart will be destroyed, and devotion service to the Lord will become awakened in his heart. So this is why second canto is so important, at least at 3 different places, once in Bhagavad Gita, once in Bhagavatam, once in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada has quoted entire sections of this chapter where the process of devotional service is being given. He quoted the verses as they are and just written the translation, just demonstrating that how this process works. So let us now go into the second chapter after discussing this specialty. I'm sharing on PPT made by Radheshyam Prabhu about this particular section, which will be, more revealing to us. Are you all able to see it now?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes. Yeah.
So, this was in the beginning of the Corona period. Radheshyam Prabhu took out, almost this chapter. There are 19 chapters in this first canto. So he gave this whole Bhagavatam in 19 days, and one chapter presented every day for 2 to 3 hours. So he made wonderful PPTs which summarizes the chapter in a very nice way and more easy to, go through. So I also am taking help of those PPTs to share with you this first canto, second chapter. Last time we saw the, overview of first chapter, and the main content of this chapter are the 6 questions which are asked by the sages of Naimisharanya. So it starts with the prelude, the definition of absolute truth, and further the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, actual religion is being discussed, and invitation to relish Srimad Bhagavatam. Nigam Kalpatarur Garikam Param Sukham Khad. So that part was discussed. And after that, sages glorify Sutta Goswami, because the glorification of the speaker is a very essential part. Wherever there is interaction in Srimad Bhagavatam between the audience and the speaker, then it begins by audience glorifying the speaker. Then the speaker also feels blessed and feels empowered to enlighten the audience. Like that it happens, whether it's Vidura or Maitreya, as you read further of different sections will come. And then sages are describing the condemned state of the affairs of Kali Yuga people, because although Kali Yuga people themselves feel that its advancement is happening from a stone age, we have come to the space technology, but actually from the perspective of sages, it's intense degradation that is going on. So sages describe the condemned state of people of Kali Yuga, and then they ask 6 questions, which are the subject matter of the further description by Sutta Goswami. So these are the 6 questions which have been asked. What is the absolute and ultimate good for people in general? What is the essence of all the scripture? Why Krishna appeared? And what act Lord performed in relation to material world? What are his activities? And where religious principles have gone? They have taken shelter of Krishna and disappeared. So these 6 questions are asked, and then in the further chapters, these 6 questions are successively answered. So now in the second chapter, Sukadeva Goswami speaks, Srila Vyasa speaks the first verse, that how Sutta Goswami, perfectly satisfied by the question, he thanked the sages, and then he attempted to reply those questions which have been asked. So, in a sense, association of a saintly person means to inquire and to hear. Inquire about the Supreme Lord, inquire about the problems of life, and then he gives a reply based on Shastras, and that enlightens us, and that brings us closer to Krishna. So, in the same line, now Sutta Goswami, being perfectly satisfied, now starts speaking. And this is the content of this particular chapter. Sutta Goswami started replying, beginning with obeisances to his spiritual master, and then he answered the sage's question. 4 questions are answered in this one chapter, that's why it's a very wide chapter. And then glorification of Bhakti is established, different stages in which a practitioner progresses while practicing Bhakti. They are being described, and our Acharya has written elaborate commentaries on that. Srila Prabhupada has also written very beautiful, deep purports on these verses. And then superiority of Krishna's worship as compared to the demigod worship has been described. So let's go on this more description. As we'll see, we'll further elaborate this. Obeisances to Guru. Sutta Goswami's Guru is Sukadeva Goswami. So Sukadeva Goswami was speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, and many sages were sitting there. And one among them was Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami did not get any very particular or personal attention in that regard. But actually, whenever we are able to hear from the spiritual master, that is to be considered as our greatest fortune. At times, as we become initiated devotees and grown-up devotees, we feel that my spiritual master should give me personal time. If it is possible, that's well and good. But if it is not possible, if we have the opportunity to hear from him, that is equally wonderful. That I am empowering. So Sutta Goswami starts by glorifying his spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, as we start any session by praying to Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, and our respective spiritual masters. So that's the tradition which has been set. And later on, he offers obeisances to Vyasadeva because he's the one who provides Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he appreciates the hearers, the audience. And then 6 and 7 verse answers the question 1 and 2. And 8 to 10, 11 verses, the 4 verses talk about spiritual duty and occupational duty, because while we are in this world, there's always a tug of war. What should I do? While I'm here, I have to take care of my responsibilities and my duties. So how should I balance this along with taking care of my spiritual responsibilities? That has been discussed. And 12th to 22nd verse, they discuss about Shravanam, hearing, as the basis of perfection, Krishna consciousness, and also the different stages in which a devotee grows as he practices devotional service. And then in the later 6 verses, 23 to 29, Krishna is established as the supreme goal and the only object of worship. And 30 to 34, question number 3 and 4, about what are the activities of Lord in relation to the material world, and why does Krishna incarnate in this world? These 2 questions are answered. So this is the second verse, that obeisances to Sukadeva Goswami. Yasva anubhavam akhila shruti saramekam adhyatma deepam atitirshataam tamondham samsarinam karunaya puram purana guhyam tam vyasa sunam upayami gurum munina. So it is always a very great delight for the disciple to meditate on the qualities and the activities of the spiritual master. This meditation is as good as the meditation of the Supreme Lord, because the Guru is also a very close associate, confidential associate of the spiritual master. And that is why in the morning prayer we say, Yasya prasadat bhagavad sadhu, that by the mercy of the spiritual master, only one gets the mercy of the Lord. Or we say, Sakshat dharitvena samasta shastre uttastata bhavyasya eva sadvi, that the spiritual master is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because it's so dear to the Supreme Lord, serving him. So here, Sutta Goswami offers obeisance to Sukadeva Goswami and remembers how Sukadeva Goswami was so detached from the very beginning that as soon as he took birth and he started walking to the forest, he did not stay at home. And his father was running behind him, shouting, my son, please come back. And then that Sukadeva Goswami, for benefiting the blind souls of this world, Samo Andham, who have been blinded by ignorance, to enlighten them, he spoke this Purana, out of his deep karuna, karunayaha Purana Guhyam, out of his compassion with the desire of doing good for all the people in this world for all time to come, he spoke this Purana Guhyam. So in this way, he is offering his obeisances and remembering the qualities and pastimes of his spiritual masters. And after that, in the next verse, famous verse which we all recite before we, speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, Narayanam namaskrityam naram cheva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamukiraye. So he offers obeisances to four personalities, Vyasadeva and Saraswati and Narayan Rishi. And like this, so Sutta Goswami has set the standard of reciting Bhagavatam, that one should beg for mercy from one's spiritual master and Srila Vyasadeva and Mother Saraswati and Narayan Rishi, and then only one will be empowered to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. And then further, Sutta Goswami appreciates the question of the sages, because people are always asking questions. The purpose of Srila Prabhupada says that everyone at all times is inquiring, and the phone call comes, we ask, how are you, from where are you calling, where are you going? And to businessmen, they are talking, what is the share market doing today? And doctor and patient, doctor is inquiring to the patient what happened, patient is describing what happened. And then everywhere, the lawyer and the client, the teacher and the student, everywhere in this world and every interaction, there are questions and answers. But all questions and answers are not fruitful, they are not enlightening. But these questions which have been asked, the 6 questions which have been asked by the sages, they are so beneficial to the entire human society. So that is why Sutta Goswami is greatly appreciating them and saying, Munaya sadhu prastoham bhavadvir lokam mangalam yat krita krishna samprashno yenatma prasidati. So he is appreciating the question that bhavadvir lokam mangalam, these questions are greatly beneficial to everyone. Yat krita krishna samprashno, because they are connected to Krishna, yenatma prasidati, their answer will be completely satisfying to all the persons of this world. So just by asking the right questions and getting the right answers, one can feel complete happiness, complete satisfaction. Because one feels completely enlightened and one understands one's right position. So after appreciating the question, then these 2 questions. What is the absolute and ultimate good for people in general? And what is the essence of all scripture? So these 2 questions, which are the first 2 questions asked by the sages, they are answered in text 6 and 7. Very, very important verses. Few of these verses have been like the verse where Srila Prabhupada has given maximum number of lectures. So on 1.2.6, almost 13 lectures Prabhupada has given in different places on different years. So there's a book called Light of Bhagavata. So Srila Prabhupada took this series of verses of 2nd chapter in 1972 in New Vrindavan community, West Virginia. And there for almost a month he spoke on these verses, and these lectures are compiled in the form of a book called Light of the Bhagavata. And this is one of the most wonderful books in our, literature, or the books given by Srila Prabhupada. And we can read it so that we can refer to Prabhupada's lectures on certain aspects, certain verses. And the entire science of Bhakti Yoga is very elaborately explained. We can hear those lectures. We are so fortunate that we can hear those lectures directly, or we can read the book. And definitely, as through this initiative, we are reading these verses and purports of Srila Prabhupada. This will be highly enlightened. Anytime we feel confused, anytime we feel bewildered, anytime we feel what's happening in my life in Bhakti Yoga, then we should refer to this chapter 1.2, Divinity and Divine Service. Because this chapter actually gives a blueprint of our entire practical devotion. So anytime we get confused or bewildered or somewhat, we lose focus, we should come back to this chapter and read the text and the purports. And then we will really become enlightened and all the illusions will be dispelled. So immediately, Sutta Goswami answers the question and says, Supreme Dharma is Bhakti. It's Savai Pumso Paro Dharma. Savai Pumso means for all men, not only for Indians, not only for one caste or community. Savai Pumso, for all people, Paro Dharma, the highest religion is Yato Bhaktir Adokshase. That Bhakti to Lord Adokshase, not Bhakti to, Shiva, Durga, Kali or something. Bhakti Adokshase. Adokshase means the transcendental Lord, Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan. And what is the quality of that Bhakti? Ahetuki. Bhakti can be done in motive also, but then that will not lead to complete satisfaction. Ahetuki Apratyata. It should not be motivated by anything wrong. It should not be discontinued. Without any motivation, without any stoppage, Yayatma Suprasiddhi. And that brings about the highest satisfaction. This is the essence of scripture. Practice the process of Bhakti Yoga unconditionally, without any motivation and without any stoppage. And what is the result of such bhakti? Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janyasyasu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yat Ahedukam. Such bhakti performed to Lord Vasudeva, Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janyasyasu, it gives birth to what? Vairagyam. Vairagyam doesn't mean to take to the renounce order, change the clothes, and shave the head and all. It's an external part of Vairagya. But Vairagya means detachment. So detachment from all material things arises simply by practicing the process of Vasudeva Bhagavati. And what happens? The true knowledge of it. Detachment from matter and knowledge about the Lord simultaneously arise in the heart of somebody who practices pure bhakti. So these two are the results of practicing bhakti. And then there's a discussion about what about the my occupational duty. I'm so busy, and we know these days how people are so busy. Most of us are part of it. We have jobs and we have business and so many things. So naturally we ask, what do we do? We are so busy with that. And then immediately Sutta Goswami says, Dharma Svanishthita Pumsa Vishwakshena Kathatriya Padyedyati Ratim Shamayeva Hi Kevalam. He says that whatever occupation you have, you can do. There's no harm. But you have to see that that occupation gives you sufficient time to develop sufficient ruchi, taste for the Supreme Lord, for hearing the Katha of the Supreme Lord. If that is not happening, either you are not finding time, either you are not developing taste, then it's a useless labor. If that our duty is what we are performing on a daily basis, for maintaining our lives, if those duties are not leading to a taste for serving the Lord, and we are not getting sufficient time to hear about the Lord, then they are not very helpful in our spiritual progress. Shama eva hi kevalam. So he says that what about the other goals people have? He says no, material gain or sense gratification are never the goal of all occupation. Now who knows this? This verse, the 9th verse which has been spoken. Practically no one knows it. They think that, oh, we have to earn wealth, and with that wealth we have to satisfy the senses. That's all. That's the goal of life. That's the goal of every person who works. But here, Sutta Goswami mentioned that no, they are not the goal. They are not the goal. They will be binding upon that. Occupational engagement are meant, so that one can inquire about the Supreme Absolute Truth. Just to maintain healthy life, just to maintain the body and soul together, so that one can inquire about Athatha Brahmaditya. That is the purpose. So these verses 8 to 11 are very revealing verses. They are very important verses to be understood deeply. I suggest that we read them with great patience and great interest, and also hear Prabhupada's lecture on this, because this is the turning point. This is the turning point for a devotee. A devotee desires change. It is not that a devotee doesn't work in an office, doesn't have business, doesn't have job. He has everything. He has a family, he has a job, he has a business, he has his investment and everything. But he fully understands that the purpose of all my working is to simply serve the Supreme Lord. And he works in a way that he gets sufficient time to study scripture, to worship the Lord, to engage in service. So this is a very, very important part. A very revealing thing which Sutta Goswami is telling, that material gain or sense gratification is not the goal of occupational engagement. Rather, to inquire about the Supreme Lord. And that was the beauty of Vedic culture. The Vedic culture, the jobs and things were so simple, they were so localized, that every person would have sufficient time to hear Katha of the Lord and to worship the Lord. Now in the modern times, the life is so complicated, the competition is so tough, and traveling is so much increased, and now with work from home, people's time has been, made more busy. In the beginning, we thought that work from home will make life easy, but nowadays many people come and tell me that actually there's no peace. At least earlier we leave the company, then we were a little free. Now we are at home, so we are always working. So that has become make life more complicated. But whatever may the situation, if we have sufficient sincerity and determination, then we can mold our life in such a way that we have time for hearing and chat. Right? So then, if life is meant for inquiring about absolute truth, then the question is, what is that absolute truth? So that the absolute truth is being described, Vadanti Tattva, that Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaneti Shabdate. So that has been described in the word. And then what is the process of understanding that absolute truth? That has been described, that Sam Siddhir Haritoshanam, that all endeavors should be directed for satisfying God. So then what should be one's focus? What should one do? Then that is described by Sutta Goswami in text 14. Tasmadekena manasa Bhagavan Sattvasampati Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Dheya Pujascha Nityada. So he says that one should engage one's time constantly, Nityada, regularly, or sometimes Nityada is defined as everyday basis. In what? Tasmad Ekena Manasa, with one pointed focused attention. What? Shrotavya, one should hear about the Supreme Lord, one should Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha, one should glorify him, one should Dheya, one should meditate upon him, and one should Pujas, one should worship him. So these four things one should do with one pointed focused attention, not with distraction. Because if we do things with distraction, then they do not have the same effect as the things which are done with concentration. That is why this quality of our devotion practice is very, very important. Because if there is no quality, then with distraction one may continue to do the same thing for many, many years or decades, and the effect will not be there. Just like you take a lens and you have to put it in sunlight, and if the sunlight is diffuse and the focus is not very sharp, it will not become intensified to burn a paper. But if the lens is kept at a proper distance and at the focal point of what the paper is kept, then the sunlight gets so intensified that it can burn the paper. So similarly, this Tasmad Ekena Manasa, therefore with one pointed attention, that means one goal, one pointed attention, then one should do this activity. The goal should be very, very clear. And then one may ask that what about the previous sins and all the wrong activities I have done, what about them? Because already before coming to Krishna, there are so many other engagements, other activities, so many sinful things. So then he replies, Yad Anudhyasina Yukta Karma Granthi Nibandanam Chindanti Kovidastasya Kona Kuryat Katharasim. He says, we don't have to worry. By hearing the message of the Lord, by paying attention to the message of the Lord, intelligent man cut through the binding knots of reactionary karma. So simply the remembrance of the Lord, that makes one free from all kind of whatever karma, punya or pap one may have in the past. That's a very special thing, because it is not possible through any other process. It's only possible through the process of Bhakti Yoga. That's why a Bhakti Yogi does not have to worry. Krishna also gives the same assurance in Bhagavad Gita that Sarva Dharman Paritijya, because if you give up all varieties of Dharma, then there's a lot of sin involved. But he says, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, you come to me, and then Mam Ekam, only me. Aham Tvam Sarupapibhi, I will give you relief from all sinful activities. Mokshishyami Masache, do not fear. So now we discussed the first two sections about Sutta Goswami's reply. He is paying obeisances to his Guru, is appreciating the question, and his answer to the first two questions of the sages. And then we discussed about the occupational duty and how the occupational duty should be engaged in such a way that one gets sufficient time for hearing and chanting. And then further we discussed about with one pointed focused attention one should serve and worship the Lord and hear about him. And now in this, how one should practice that bhakti. The entire science of Bhakti Yoga, the blueprint of practice of devotional service, that has been given in text 16 to 21, 6 verses. Very elaborate commentary by other acharyas and quite a sizable purport by Srila Prabhupada also. So this has been summarized here. Text number 16, it talks about service to devotees leading to the taste for hearing. So that's the first step. How does one get taste for hearing about the Lord? That happens by the service to the devotee. That's the first step. And then what happens when one hears, one develops taste for hearing? Then Lord from within the heart, he cleanses the heart of all the material desires. And what happens when the heart is clean? Then Lord service is established as an irrevocable fact. And with the effect of that, the effect of lower modes like what of ignorance and passion are, washed off. And then one becomes established in goodness. In goodness, the characteristic of happiness is experience. Because knowledge and happiness, they are symptoms of goodness. And then further, by practicing devotional service, mind is enlivened by devotional service, and then the scientific knowledge of the Supreme Lord is gained, and then the knot of heart is pierced, receiving the cut, chain of direction terminated, and one is able to fully see oneself as a servant of the Lord. So this is the whole cycle. On the right side in the blue boxes, you can see this rises from Shraddha to Prem. So these are just the 5 verses, but they are taking us from the staircase of Shraddha to Sadhu Sangha to all the process. So we will be spending a little time discussing about this staircase or the cycle. As you can see here, it's like a staircase. It has been given by Srila Rupa Goswami, the 9 stages from Shraddha to Prem. Ado Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha To Bhajan Kriya Tato Anarthini Pratisha Tato Nishtha Ruchis Tatha Atas Asaktis Tato Bhava Tatasa Prema Vishati Sadhakanam Ayam Premna Sadur Bhave Bhavet Kramaha. So this is how a sadhaka's life, gradually moves from Shraddha to Prem. The entire ladder, it's the entire step-by-step process which has been given by our. Just see how scientific the process of bhakti is. Sometimes people think bhakti means to think of the Lord in the heart and have any kind of emotion and sentiment, and just like that. Bhakti to hriday ki cheez hai. Bhakti hriday se karna chahiye. But there's a whole science behind it. Definitely, it's a matter of heart, but it's also very scientific. It is not just to feel any random emotion based on our conditioning in the heart and not do anything practical. There's a lot of practical thing involved here. So these are the 9 stages which are now described. What is the cause of bhakti? Does Shubha Karma cause bhakti? No. There's a whole elaborate description in Madhurya Kadamani on this topic. Shubha Karma cannot lead to devotion. By any amount of pious activity, one cannot become a devotee. Pious activity will result to pious result. Pious result will give him birth in the heavenly planet where one can enjoy, but not come to bhakti. Is the Lord's mercy the cause of bhakti? No, it's not directly, because if Lord's mercy has been the cause of bhakti, and some get bhakti, some doesn't get bhakti, then Lord is partial. Somebody is giving mercy, somebody is not giving mercy. But Lord is famous as impartial Lord. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am impartial. So Lord's mercy is also not the cause of bhakti. Devotees causes mercy, yes. Devotees causes mercy is the cause of bhakti, but devotees do discriminate. Prem, Maitri, Kripa, Upeksha, Yat Karoti, Samadhyama. Devotees see who is favorable, who is not favorable, and some they preach, some they don't preach. So devotees causes mercy is the actual cause of bhakti. And these are the stages on the path of devotion service, right from Shraddha to Sadhu Sangha to Bhajan Kriya. It's an uphill task, I don't know how it goes. Yeah, it goes like that. Sadhu, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, then Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivrati is an uphill task, tough thing, And then you come to Nishtha, which is the stage, and then other things like Ruchi, Bhava, Asakti, they are the down side. Immediately it happens. One doesn't have to put much endeavor. So this is how the stages of bhakti are. Definitely Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivrati is the tough part, because when anarthas are getting cleansed, it is not easy, it is tough, it is painful at times. So, but as we consistently persist, then we come to the level of Nishtha and Ruchi, and then it becomes highly relevant. So now we are discussing a bit about each of these aspects, because these are very practical aspects of that. So this will be in more detail in the purports, but just a brief summary in the overview. Shraddha means faith. And what is that faith? Faith means respect for the scriptures and interest in the scripture. When we talk of Shraddha, it is not about just having faith in person, it is about faith in scripture. That whatever scripture says, that is right. Whatever Bhagavad Gita says, that is right. If one does not have faith in scriptures, then that means one does not have faith in the Supreme Lord, one does not have faith in the Purpose. So that is the meaning of Shraddha. And why one has Shraddha, one does not have? Because of Bhakti Unmukh Sukriti. As a person keeps on unknowingly do some work related to Krishna and his devotees, and gradually that Shraddha, that faith in the scripture, faith in the devotees arises. Right? And how causes one to unknowingly perform devotional divine service? That is the plan of the Lord. Because suppose devotee go for book distribution, somebody may not take a Gita. Somebody touches the Bhagavad Gita, then a Sukriti is in it. We are going in the train and some people are sitting. So we distribute prasadam to some. The Sukriti is in it. So by coming in touch with any part of devotional service, their Sukriti increases. And when the Sukriti reaches a certain level, it will take several lifetimes. So then he comes to the level of faith where he feels interested. Okay, what is the devotion service? What is the devotee doing? What is Bhagavad Gita saying? So that is called Shraddha, respect and interest. So that happens by accumulating Sukriti for many, many lifetimes. And there are 2 types of Shraddha. One is Swabhaviki, naturally growing, like none other one is Balodpadita, that means by preaching. I was traveling the train sometime and we catch some person little pious and we preach to him very forcefully. So immediately we increase the Shraddha and we bring him to a level of chanting Hare Krishna. And then when faith matures sufficiently, it leads him to take association of devotees, that sadhu sangha. So sadhu sangha, initially it is just about like talking to a devotee, and then one asks some questions about the practice, about the application in personal life. And then as one continues to associate, his faith grows, and association increases faith, and faith creates interest for association, so they strengthen and push each other. And then respect arises, and a person will become willing to do some service. And then he engages in practical service. So this is the verse for that. Shushoshadhanasya Vasudeva Katha Ruchi Dhyan Mahasevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevanat. So by serving devotees was free from vice, with service is done. By such service one becomes develops interest for hearing the message. So this is Shraddha and Sadhu Sangha. Then Bhajan Kriya, which involves taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and then serving his instruction. So depending on one's sincerity and simplicity, one progresses. He engages more service, chanting, following regulated principles, become free from materialistic life, and this still is unsteady. There are 6 stages in this Bhajan Kriya, which is called Anishtita Bhajan Kriya. There is Ussahamayi, Dhanatarala, Vyudavikalpa, and Vishaya Sangera, and Niyamakshama, and Tarangarangi. So these are 6 stages which we can experience practically in our lives also. And then as one continues, then one will gradually come to Nishtha. So this is the words for Bhajan Kriya. How by hearing about the Lord one pleases the Lord, and then the Lord cleanses the heart from the within. Shranvatam Sukatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Hirtata. So the Supreme Lord is saying as Paramatma in the heart. He is the benefactor of truthful devotee. He cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee to develop the urge to hear his message. So one gets taste for hearing by serving a devotee, and when one gets taste to hear, then the Lord comes in picture, and by his desire to hear, the Lord cleanses the heart from within. As the heart becomes clean, the taste for hearing again increases. As the taste for hearing increases, the taste for service increases, and this way they go in a cycle and they naturally strengthen each other. And then further, anartha nivritti happens. Anartha nivritti, there are 4 kinds of anartha: duskrutata, sprutata, pradata, and satyuta. And gradually, by the practice of devotional service, they all 4 are destroyed. They are destroyed in different stages that is being described. And this is the obstacle in anartha nivritti. Why by repeated hearing and chanting one does not get Krishna praying so quickly? Because the offenses are involved. So offenses are eradicated in due course of time. Gradually, there's a whole science and seminar on how to eradicate offenses. It's not a part of this discussion as of now. But gradually, by anartha nivritti, then one reaches Nishtha. And Nishtha is a steady determination where one is still little bit distraction is there because of these obstacles of sleep. When I fall asleep in the class, now on Zoom videos are off, so we don't know what is happening to home. But Vikshepa, distraction in between, we are hearing, but we feel like we're talking to someone, we feel like checking WhatsApp messages. Apratipati, even when you're not sleeping distracted, there's no taste. There's no taste coming in chanting or reading. Then Kasaya, tendency toward bad habit, and Rasasa. So these are 5 things which are present even during Nishtha. And when these 5 things are absent, then one reaches the platform of Ruchi. So this is the Nishtha platform. Nashtaprayesha Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nishtha. Srila Prabhupada writes very beautiful purport. He says that human reason fails to understand how by serving the book Bhagavata and the person Bhagavata, one attains perfection devotion. So the key is that one should consistently continue. One should not feel discouraged because it takes some time. We have been in the material realm for unlimited time, billions and trillions of lifetimes. Now we have started practicing Bhakti Yoga. So medicine works, but it takes its own time. Even if you take injection or saline, medicine takes its own time. One has to tolerate and be patient. That's why it's called patient. Be patient. When we go to hospital, we are patient. So we have to have some patience. It happens gradually. All the anarthas are destroyed, and Bhakti Bhavati Nishtha, one comes to the stage of Nishtha, steady faith. And then from steady faith, one goes further to the stage of Ruchi. So this is the stage of Ruchi. Irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, and then passion and ignorance, lust and desire, they disappear from the heart as the devotee is filled with goodness and becomes extremely happy. So this is Ruchi. In the stage of Ruchi, one need not to be pushed. His round doesn't stop with 16 rounds. Like we keep mala after 16 rounds. So when I person talks about Ruchi means taste. So naturally, somebody taste, one keeps on, doing that. Like in childhood, sometimes, some sweet mother has prepared and we like it. So we keep on going to kitchen and eat a piece and then come and do something. But the taste is there, then again go to kitchen and do. Or sometimes people while working also, they keep a pot of, whatever, some popcorn or kurmura or something. And there's some taste. So although they're working on the computer, they're having a meeting and they keep on putting something. So when taste is there, then things don't stop, right? And constant performance does not cause fatigue. It is not the person become tired, sola mala, 1 hour class, done. Not like that. Ruchi means there's a taste and there's no fatigue, no tiredness. And also in his heart appears repentance. Oh, how much time did I waste? My life is wasted. So many lifetimes I wasted, and in this lifetime, so many years I wasted. Even after coming to devotional service, I wasted so many years without becoming very serious about the practice of devotional service. So, like that, he repents for the wastage of time and whatever wrong action he may have done previously. Why did I offend the devotee? Why did I say like that? Why I had been so harsh? Why I have been, so much inclined toward Prajalpa? Like that, one feels. And he laments, oh, so much time gets wasted in this and that, so much time gets wasted in doing so many other duties. And he laments for that. He wants to intensify and increase the devotion. And then he goes to the level of asakti. In the asakti, in the ruchi stage, he feels attachment for bhajan. In the asakti stage, he becomes focused on the Supreme Lord. That means the attraction for the Supreme Lord awakens, and then Krishna becomes the object of a devotion service. One is able to see, meditate on the Lord's lotus feet. One remembers all the symbols which are there in the lotus feet of the Lord, like the chakra and the flag and the gourd. And when one is meditating on lotus feet, one can meditate for any amount of time. One just feels totally absorbed. Oh, my Lord's lotus feet is having that fish. The devotee's mind is like the fish. Just like the fish cannot live without water, similarly, the devotee's mind cannot live without meditating on the Supreme Lord. Then one remembers that lotus feet. This lotus feet, with this lotus feet, he delivered Ahilya as Lord Ram. With this lotus feet, he delivered Kubja. So like that, he remembered the glory of the lotus feet, how the gopis are glorifying the lotus feet of the Lord. How when the Lord goes to the forest for herding the cows, then the lotus feet are pricked by these pebbles and stones, and gopis' hearts are broken. So one becomes totally absorbed. One gets totally lost in just meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. And then as one comes further about the lotus navel of the Lord, and arms of the Lord, and face of the Lord is the epitome of all beauty. So like that, one becomes totally absorbed in the form of the Lord. In Ruchi, one is absorbed in the bhajan. One wants to chant, read, hear. But in Asakti, one is focused on the form of the Lord. So Ruchi is immature stage of attachment, Asakti is mature stage. And no deliberate effort. One cannot withdraw the mind. That is Asakti. One cannot withdraw the mind. Anything, anywhere one sees the cloud, one sees, oh, Krishna is Ganesham. And one sees, the earth, and one sees, oh, the earth is so fortunate when Krishna was there, then Krishna was walking on the planet Earth, and the earth was being marked by the lotus footprints of the Lord. So like that, anywhere one sees, one can connect to Krishna. That is the stage of Asakti. Anything one sees. One sees water, he says, oh, Krishna is the taste of water, And then one may remember, oh, Indra did so much rainfall, but Krishna let it go over the hill. So one's mind totally becomes absorbed. That is the stage of Asakti. One doesn't have to make any endeavor. Even by endeavor, one's mind cannot be withdrawn from thinking of the Lord. That is Asakti. And then further one comes to Bhav and Prem. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangas jayate. So this is the stage of Asakti which one reaches. And then Bhava arises. In the Bhava stage, one can actually, understand and realize one's relationship with the Lord, whether he's in Santaras, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsala, one can realize that one can have direct darshan of the Lord. And when Prema manifests, then it is like the, mature fruit. The same fruit, in the Shraddha, it was immature, it was a kacha. Now in Prema, it has become fully ripened, fragrant man. So all the bondage is cut, and then one relishes the association of the Lord. Vidyate hridaya granthi siddhyante sarva samshaya chiyante chasya karmani drashta eva atmanishware. So this verse gives a glimpse of Prema. And these are 9 stages, but Srila Vaishnava Chakravarti Thakur talks about 14 steps. He says the first step in Bhakti is mercy of devotee, Satam Kripa. By their mercy. Mercy means we didn't endeavor. They just came across by the arena of the Lord. They just came across. In train we sat next to a devotee. We came to temple and then somebody gave us prasad and we, encountered him at some counter. So many counters in our NVCC to encounter so many people so that we can increase the Sakriti. Japa stall, SPSS stall, Chanamrita stall, book stall. So these stalls are there so that Bhakti can be installed. The Bhakti installment can be given. Because even after coming to temple for millions of times, one does not attain as much Sukriti as one attains by interacting with a devotee for a few minutes. That's the power of a devotee. Devotee is more powerful in distributing Bhakti than the Lord. So, mercy of devotee and then service to devotee. Something he engages in service. Gives some donation on Janmashtami, some kind donation he gives, or something, helps in book distribution or something. And then the faith arises and one surrender to Guru. Then he practices the process of Bhakti, then Anantas are cleared, and then Nistha Ruchi Asakti, Prem, and after that Prem, he had darshan of the Lord, and then he experiences the Lord's sweet. So these are 14 steps described in the same 5 verses, 16 to 21. And how we make progress? Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anusmriti is the stages. This is like, we say, the map of the entire process. That's really 9 stages are very important for us to know, understand at least the process of these 4. Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anusmriti. Because beginning they only take a lot of time. After one reaches Nistha, that is the top. And then Ruchi Asakti is like the downslope. Then it happens automatically. One doesn't have to endeavor. So, Sikshastakam is a step-by-step process for elevating us to these stages. Cheto Darpan Marjanam, which covers the first 3 stages. Namna Mahari, the second one, talks about Anartha Nivritti. So, one can read that. Our Acharyas have given purport connecting these stages to Sikshastakam, and that is why Sikshastakam we recite every day. And in this way, these verses are explained. Especially Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur book is there, Sri Chaitanya Sikshamrita. So, in that, he is elaborating on each verse and connecting them to these stages of Bhakti. So this is what we discussed, the 16 to 21. Service, affinity to hear, Paramatma in the heart, and like that. Shraddha to pray. And then now coming further to text 22 to 29. Then Vishnu worship is superior to worship of Brahma and Shiva, because many times people think that Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, they are in the same category. That's not the fact. So that is why Sutta Goswami is describing them that how Vishnu worship is distinct, is superior to the worship of Brahma and Shiva. So he describes Lord Brahma, Lord Vasudeva is the essence of all the persons. Vasudevam Param Gati, Vasudeva Paro Dharma, Vasudeva Param. So like that, there's a whole word. And Vasudeva is Param Jnanam, Vasudeva Para Kriya, Vasudeva Para Yoga, Vasudeva Para Mukha, Vasudeva Para Yoga. The essence of everything, the ultimate goal of everything is Lord Vasudeva. So that is the glory of Bhagavan as topmost object. So this can be read. Prabhupada gives a beautiful purport describing about each one, how Lord Vasudeva is Param Gati. All other gatis are temporary, because if we worship demigod, we go to demigod planet, they're temporary. So how is the Param Gati? How is the Param Veda? Vedesha Sarve Rama Eva Vedya, Vedanta Veda Deva Chant. Like that, Prabhupada explained about each one of these 8 aspects in his purport on this text. And then the next 2 questions: why Lord appeared as incarnation, and what did the Lord do in the mission of creating multiverse? So first question number 4 is answered. What act did the Lord perform? So then the Sutta Goswami describes that actually Lord manifests this material world through his 3 Purusha avatars. Mahavishnu is the sum total, is the soul of the entire Mahatattva. So he lies in the Mahatattva, and from his folds, many universes they come. And then second expansion in the form of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, where Lord enters into each universe and fills half of the universe with the water from his body, and then he lies down. And then third expansion is Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. At Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, Lord enters everyone's heart as super. So this is the way Lord manifests, or Lord, manages the material world. So this is the answer to question number 4. And then what he does by this incarnation, assuming the role of this incarnation, the Lord performs pastimes to reclaim those who are in the mode of pure goodness. So Lord performs pastimes for attracting the devotees. So this is the purpose for which Lord incarnates in this matter. The different kind of incarnations he takes among demigods. The Lord of the universe maintains all planets which is inhabited by demigods, man, lower animals, and assuming the role of incarnation, he performed pastime to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. So there are many incarnation Prabhupada writes in the purport, like as animal he comes as Varahadev, he comes as Lord Narasimhadev, he comes as Hayagari, as man he comes as like Narnar and Rishi, as Parashram, as Lord Ramchandra, he comes as aquatic, he comes as Matsya Avatar and the Kurma Avatar, like that. So Lord appears in all these different kinds of incarnations so that one can attract the living entities in that particular form and can, facilitate their coming back home, back to God. So this is the summary once again as we begin with text number 1 to 7. They talk about Sutta Goswami's reply. In that he first offers obeisances and praise for the mercy of the spiritual master, which is the standard process. And then he glorifies the question of the sages, and then he answers question number 1 and 2, saying that the supreme occupation for all humanity is to practice pure devotional service, and such devotional service should be uninterrupted and unmotivated. And then what about occupational duty? What about the duties of this world? What about the occupations and all? Then the occupational duties should be utilized only for gaining the taste for hearing and chanting. The desires of human beings should be directed to inquire about the absolute truth. And then the 3 features of absolute truth as Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaneti, that is being described. And only by devotional service that supreme absolute truth can be realized, that is being discussed. And devotional service is the only purpose of Varnashram. And that's why one should, with one pointed focus and attention, one should hear, glorify, remember, and worship the Lord. And what happens by such remembrance? That the karma knots are cut without any external effect. And then there's a process from 16 to 21, how Bhakti progresses from Shraddha to Prem, that we discussed in little more detail. Ado Shraddha, Tata Sadhu, Sangha, Bhajan, Kriya, Nartani, Upatti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav, and Prem. And then 22 to 29, how only Krishna has to be served, because Krishna is the sense of everything. He is the Paramakha, Paraveda, Param Tapa, Param Jnana. And demigod worship should be rejected, demigod should not be rejected. Demigods are assisting the Lord in plan for the material world. But demigod worship is not required, because once you worship Krishna, it is like putting water at the root. Everything is included in that. And how Krishna functions in the material world through the 3 Purusha avatars that has been described. He comes as Karanodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Tirudakshaya Vishnu. And then why does he come? So that he can reclaim the pure souls. So this is the conclusion of the 2nd chapter. In the 3rd chapter, we will discuss about the role of Purusha Avatar, which has been described now, and the description of 22 incarnations, how Krishna is the source of all the incarnations, and then the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that will be the next session by Madan Sundar mostly, or I will take it. So I'm sorry I have to really run fast, speak a little fast also, because the chapter is long and one session summary. But as you will read through in the coming days, already you might have started on a daily basis, and you will relish this chapter a lot. And as I told that, let this chapter be a bookmark. Whenever illusion surrounds us, whenever we feel little lost, come back to basics. Come back to this chapter, and sure enough, this chapter will enlighten us of chanting to become steady in our practice again. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So now we are at 8:59 or 9 o'clock, and some of you might have your jobs and all, and those who have questions, we can organize and we will answer some questions, and that we will conclude for today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this enlightened session. And there we have a couple of questions, so I'll directly move to questions. So first question is from Anurag Prabhu. Anurag Prabhu, if you're still there, can you please switch on your camera and ask a question? Hare Krishna. Anurag Prabhu, are you able to hear us?
Anurag Agrawal too, I'm able to see, but I don't know whether he has a question. Somebody else has. Oh, there's a question here. Yeah, in the chat it is there. I can read it.
Can't unmute. Okay. Can you raise your hand, Anurag Prabhu, so that I could see you and unmute you?
No, he has put question in chat, so I think I can. Yeah. What is the meaning of maintaining healthy life in verse 11? Does it refer to physical health or Yuktahar principle or something else? Yeah. The Supreme Lord who has given us the body, he has also given us the ways to maintain this body. In fact, Ayurveda, there's a Veda, there's Vedic knowledge. Ayur means the life. the duration of life. So Ayurveda means that one which preserves the duration of life. So yes, the maintaining healthy life means that to follow the Yuktahara Vihara principle, to do our even maintenance of body in relation with the Lord. So otherwise it becomes sinful. And that is why devotees, we take only prasad, we offer food to Krishna, then honor it. And similarly, Yuktahara Vihara and Yukta Karma situation. So Prabhupada in the first Canto, first chapter, first verse only writes that in Kali Yuga all diseases are born because of, what? Remember that? It was discussed last time. Because of irregulated eating and irregulated sleeping. And that's a fact actually. If we carefully analyze, one may go through any disease, but the fundamental cause is often irregulated eating, irregulated sleeping. So one should be regulated, and even while eating and sleeping, one should do that in a connected way to Krishna consciousness. Then one can maintain the bodily health. But then bodily health is not for working hard. It is maintained so that one can inquire about God. One can perform one sadhana properly. Suppose somebody has back pain, then one cannot sit and chant properly. One cannot do certain services. So one should maintain good health so that one can practice Krishna consciousness without hindrances. Anyway, there are so many hindrances in this day and age, so one should not spoil one's health. But that is the purpose, and that should be done in by a process of regulation.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Next question is from Devika ji. You can unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the lecture. Prabhuji, my question is, unfortunately, I have to confess that I don't enjoy chanting. I mean, I know it's offensive to even say this, but if I don't confess, then that means I'm not being transparent. I have, for the last 10, 11 years, I have several times tried to chant 16 rounds, and I have done that for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. But then I always fall back. But what I really, really enjoy is listening to lectures, which I always do. So I need some advice on how I can take interest in chanting, because there are several devotees who are well-wishers for me and who encourage me to chant and who keep on checking on me whether I'm chanting or not. And I feel very guilty when I'm not chanting. And I feel like I sometimes only begin, I resume chanting just to satisfy them, just to please the devotees who are asking on me whether I'm chanting or not. But I don't chant for Krishna's pleasure. And
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm enjoying chanting. When I chant 16 rounds, I feel so happy at the time when I'm chanting. I feel like I'm very protected. But how can I continue chanting for life? I feel like I can never do that.
Yeah, I'm happy about your confession. It takes a lot of courage to confess in an assembly like this. So definitely, Krishna will bless you with that honesty. And it's very good that you are inclined to hear. Hearing also the fundamental process before Kirtanam Shravanam comes. So that interest in hearing also will gradually build up taste for chanting. However, because chanting is the main process for this age, Kali Gale Nam Rupe Krishna Avatar, and we hear so much glories of chanting. So still it may not kind of connect to us or may not give us sufficient inspiration to chant or continue chanting. So one practical way which we can try, I believe we may have tried or may not have tried, if it is possible in a situation, is to chant with a devotee. So we commit to be with a devotee and chant with, in their association. Then oftentimes, even if we do not have taste, still we carry along, because some of them are feeling some taste, some of them are feeling some enthusiasm, and we wonder, chanting is definitely tasty, but I am not getting what, just see this devotee so sincerely sitting at one place chanting that. And definitely we can pray to Srila Prabhupada and we can pray to Krishna to give us a taste for chanting. And while chanting, even if we are not feeling taste, we should definitely not get distracted by anything else. If we are doing any other activity, then it will never happen. But if we are chanting, even if we are struggling, even if we have no taste, we try whatever little we can to hear the holy name, because that hearing actually produces the taste. When we hear the holy name, as you said, when you chant 16 rounds, you feel so happy. So when you hear the holy name, whatever, it may be one syllable, it may be one word, it may be whatever we can hear, and that will go as a medicine, and that will increase and build up that taste. So we should not be doing anything while chanting because sometimes we have no taste, so we might have a habit of doing something else along with chanting. Then it will not work. So we try to chant exclusively, and also we try to chant with other devotees, and we may choose a certain level where we may commit for every day. Because sometimes chanting 16, sometimes not chanting at all. That's not a very good standard compared to chanting a certain number of rounds on a daily basis. Taste or no taste, as a medicine, I will chant. So that will be greater commitment, and that will, in due course of time, produce that taste. So these are a few things which at least I feel can be tried. That continue hearing. You can hear specifically on the glories of holy name. That will also increase our faith in the holy name and inspire us to chant. That is one thing. Second thing is, if there's a possibility to chant with devotees, then please have that association and chant with them. Their enthusiasm and their inspiration will carry us along. And third thing is to fix up a certain number of rounds depending on our taste and capacity. Others may be chanting 16, 32, whatever, but we may chant a certain fixed number of rounds. There's no harm in that. That's all right. And fourth is that while we are chanting, although there may be mental distraction, but we should not have gross distraction. And mental distraction also, we should know the processes as I chant, I try to hear whatever little I can. Definitely, none of us can hear the whole thing, but we try. That's the process. That's the abhyas. That is the sadhana. Sadhana is to bring the mind back. Yato yato nishalati manas. Wherever the mind goes, Krishna tells Arjuna, you bring it back. Because that's what sadhaka has to do. Sadhaka means the person whose mind will get it. Siddha means whose mind is fixed. So we are not siddhas. So that mind should be brought back, but gross distraction should not be there. And along with the prayers, in due course of time, you will develop a great taste, and we chant 64 rounds every day, some point of time in the time to come. Is that okay?
All right. Thank you, Prabhuji. I have another question, but I will ask that in the end if time permits.
Yeah. Let others ask. A few hands are up.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
All right.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Uma Mataji, you are next. I can't see her now. Maybe she lost the connection. Okay. So the next question is, Medhavani Mataji, you can ask. You can unmute yourself and ask.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the very wonderful session. I mean, very beautifully explained what are the symptoms of person in various stages. So my query is, also I'd like to thank His Great Mother Sundar Prabhu for giving us wonderful association of His Great Radhesham Prabhu, yourself. So it's very, very nice to hear from all of you. So Prabhuji, I have two questions. So I'll ask my first question and wait for the turn next to ask my second question. So my first question is in relation to devotional service, right? You spoke about the offenses. There is offenses actually do not give us a taste for performing devotional service and chanting. So my question is, Prabhuji, when we engage in devotional service, sometimes in our in our mentality to control things, which has come with us so many lifetimes, and also with the sometimes even during duty over enthusiasm, we end up not pleasing the Vaishnava whom we are trying to serve, right? Although engaged in devotional service. So, so is it better to withdraw oneself when we know that a particular senior Vaishnava whom we are trying to serve is not pleased, or should we continue to serve that Vaishnava, praying to the Lord that one day we may be able to please that Vaishnava? So, what is a better way in order to avoid offenses to the Vaishnava, even while rendering service? Is it better to withdraw and look up at other avenues of devotional service, or continue serving this Vaishnava or this Yatra, whom I have benefited a lot from this Yatra, from this Vaishnava I'm trying to serve, and hence I would like to definitely continue. But if it would be offensive to continue while not pleasing the Vaishnava, it's better than withdrawing myself. So which one would be a better option? So can you please guide? Thank you.
Hare Krishna. The question is quite a subjective question. I will just share some principles and some thoughts. It will not be like I am not kind of instructing or telling to do one or the other, but still some thoughts to make it clear. Actually, offenses are made when we have the intention to hurt a person. The intention plays a role in offense. something which might happen as a course of action without our intention, without our consciously thinking that I should displease him, I should hurt him, and not counted as an offense. So we have to understand that the offense is like quite well defined. It is not that anything we do, anybody gets displeased is an offense also. However, when we are in a certain situation and trying to serve and please someone, then definitely we please the devotees on behalf of the Supreme Lord, on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, right? So our service is actually through whatever devotees are there in our community or leaders. They are also connected to our Guru and Srila Prabhupada and then to Krishna. Ultimately, we are aiming for the pleasure of Krishna, but that is not directly possible. So we have to go through the channel of Acharyas and through the channel of our superiors. So this complete picture has to be in mind, that I am trying to please my Guru, please Srila Prabhupada. And if there is a situation in which we are rendering service, but somehow, I would not say an offense, but there is some kind of disagreement and there is some kind of disharmony and there is some kind of, we can say difference, because of which we are not feeling comfortable at a mental level, which we might interpret as offense, that okay, maybe it's offensive. But it might be a mere disagreement, it just might be a mere misunderstanding or two different ways of doing things. It might not be an intentional thing that I want to hurt him, I want to displease him or something like that. But if it is not working out well, then we can actually consult other people who are aware of the situation and who know us well. That is the situation. Shall I continue to do the seva or shall I, kind of make some change? Because sometimes the service is required and there's not an appropriate person immediately to handle that, So then we come to a understanding that how we can do it in a way that the other person and we both are, because we both have the same goal. It is not that we are doing something personal for anyone and then he's pleased or displeased. No, we are serving the mission. They are also serving the mission. And that is why there is a common goal, whether it's a leader or authority. But there's a common goal for them. They are also trying to please Krishna. They're engaging us in Krishna service, and we are also trying to please them as Krishna representatives. So if we are not able to work it out between just among both of us, then we can involve a person who can see both sides, and he can, make us understand that okay, this person, he may have a different idea, but your service to the mission is still valuable, and you can go ahead with that. And same thing can be told to him that you may have a different idea, but right now you are not the one who is doing it. So you give flexibility to the other person to do it in a certain way. So I would say that because it's not a personal affair, it's an affair which is to please Prabhupada, that is as our founder Acharya, then we always can arrive at a consensus in which we can serve very nice. And if we feel that we have other better ways to serve, other better places to serve, then we can make a change. But it should always be made by consulting someone, not alone. In Bhakti, no decision should ever be taken alone. It should always be taken with consulting. It is not that they will tell us what to decide, but whatever our thoughts are there, we should always consult. And that is why having a mentor, having a counselor, having a caretaker, that's a mandatory. Just like the child always have a mother, but in the beginning, the mother has a very elaborate role, we can say. Right from waking up to cleaning him and to bathing, feeding, everything is done by mother. But as the child grows, the mother still remains the mother and she is still available. But the role changes. It's not the same role. Now the baby has grown up. Now he starts taking baths himself. He starts going to school himself. He started dressing himself. He started going to parties himself. So it changes, but mother is still there. Still, she's there to help. So similarly, in our spiritual life, as we grow, we should always have connection to some motherly devotees, fatherly devotees, whom we can depend upon whenever the need comes. We should never feel that, come to us, and because our decisions might be coming from our limited perspective, and they may not be the best decisions which will make us grow in Bhakti. So yes, at what stage to continue serving, and what stage to change our service or the person whom we are serving a place of service, these are subjective decisions which should always be taken in consultation with a local person who knows our situation. So I could say only this much on the principal basis. Depending on exact situation, somebody can give better guidance in the local scenario. Is that okay, Madhavi? You are mute.
Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yes, Madhavi.
Okay. So Prabhuji, yeah. So I mean, it's with this Corona thing, everything is happening online. So there's a facility of offering services to various yatras, right? I'm in Bombay, but I serve because maybe online services, like mostly in relation to transcription, etc. We are able to serve several yatras, like Chennai yatra also, because I'm originally from Chennai, and even Evolve Pune also. I'm staying in Bombay. I'm able to participate in Evolve Pune lectures and yatras, and so different services we are able to do, and of course local services also done. Like I go to Radha Giridhari Mandir, like that. So when this issue is in relation to online services, right, where the person whom you're reporting to for that particular seva in an online scenario, so it does not make sense to discuss with the local authority because they are not really aware of me doing that service. So that's the reason I'm a little.
Yeah, I would say I understood your point. That local authority means, when I'm saying local, I believe local authority means basically some person whom we see as a guide. Then we can tell them as a issue in terms of what we feel about it, not about the technicalities, but what is happening and what is causing us dissatisfaction and what is causing us little discouragement. So any guide, it may be local authority, it may also be online, somebody maybe Paspradasha Guru or Siksha Guru in Chennai perhaps or somewhere. So then we ask them, some people who know us personally and people who look forward to see that we personally grow in our spiritual life. So they are guides to us in that regard. So that is the person I'm talking of, because authorities have like limited perspective and then they can be talked in terms of that local service. But in such cases, guides can be there, and that is why having a guide is a very important aspect of being steady in devotional service at all stages. It's like a child will always have mother and father. Their role will vary. Similarly, we should also have connection with some devotees who genuinely look forward that we make genuine advancement. Sometimes our spiritual masters can play that role, but at times the spiritual masters in ISKCON are quite well packed. So then in those times we look forward for certain devotees who are senior to us, who know us. And just like you're asking me about that question, you ask him, then he will further interview you. What happened? What service are you doing? How did you do that service? Who hired you for that service? Because there are factors involved. Huh? And did we volunteer or did they ask? So there are a lot of factors which have to be taken into consideration before we come to a final conclusion. And then, if we have to withdraw, then how to communicate so that this is done in a non-hurting way, the relationship is not broken. You don't blame them for our experience of that. They are trying their best, but our experience is because of our expectations. So like that, somebody can maturely, deal with that and can guide on a principle. So local authority is not mandatory in this regard. I'm just talking of a person whom we trust and whom we have deep friendship with, that can help. Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Next is Uma Mataji. You can ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. While summarizing the second chapter, you said about uninterrupted devotional services.
Unmotivated.
But yes, but being a grasta, like there are many occasions like a illness, or there is a wedding in the family, or some other, or the traveling. So how do we maintain the devotion at that time? I recently had corona. So during that illness of 10 days, like the Japmala was just lying besides me, but I did not have the courage to take and chant a round, though I was chanting in my mind. But physically, I couldn't do the chanting. And I was feeling really bad about it. So during those cases, during the medical illness, how do we go about the devotional service then?
Yeah, I deeply appreciate your sincerity to be practicing devotional service even in the times of physical sickness. They're really tough times. And
yeah, though I made up the chanting by doing it later on, but during that time it was really very difficult.
Yeah, that is perfect. What you did was perfect. We have to understand that Krishna is a person, and through the process of devotional service, we are trying to connect to him and trying to please him in the role of a person. So this is the foundation of our bhakti process. This is the very foundation of our relationship. That Krishna is a person. So he understands our situation. When we are physically not fit, when we are sick, and when we have no strength in the body, temperature is so high, he understands that. And it is not that, he is like a, like a jailer who is saying, no, this much work you have to do, then only things will happen forward. No. He loves us, he cares for us. And even in this situation, he observes our desire. So if he sees that we are not ungrateful to him, we are not blaming him for what is happening. Krishna, I'm chanting and still you are giving me sickness, I will stop chanting. Not like that. we don't blame him in those situations. And whatever best is possible as per our strength in those situations, we do. And later on, as you did, you did by compensating for those wrongs, that is perfectly acceptable. It is done by many devotees, because there are times when somebody has to go for surgery and 2 days he is unconscious practically, and corona period when one gets high fever. So in such exceptional circumstances, if there is a break at the level of external practice, that's all right. Because internally, if we are not blaming Krishna, we are grateful to Krishna, we are thanking Krishna, and we are chanting in the mind, we are remembering Krishna, then that is what is uninterrupted. Because in future it may happen, we may get paralyzed, we may get cancer, we may be on ventilator, we don't know. So physical thing is not all in all. When we talk of uninterrupted, that uninterruption is in the mind. That our mind is always focused in the desire to please Krishna. Now that desire to please Krishna may manifest in many, many ways. Through chanting, through reading, through hearing, through distributing books, through cooking prasadam, like that. So uninterruption is in the mind. So if we don't become ungrateful, and if we don't give up the process on a long run, and we remain grateful, then it's fine. Such situations come because we have a material body and we are living in a material environment. So such breaks may come, which are beyond our capacity to handle. So that's all right. We don't have to be worried about that. These are occasional things which happen. At other times, if we are sincerely doing it, Krishna takes it into account. Krishna is very kind. He knows us from inside out. Other people may say us from outside in, but Krishna sees inside out, and he knows our desires. So if our desire is there that we want to chant his holy name, we want to remember it, Krishna gives us full credit for that. So Prabhupada at times would say, Arjuna was not chanting in the battlefield. Right? Arjuna was not having the bead bag and chanting there. Arjuna was fighting for Krishna. So whatever we are doing and whatever situation we are, if we take it as a grace of Krishna, as a mercy of Krishna, and we remain grateful to him, we remain thankful to him, then our devotion service is uninterrupted in any given situation. All the external practice may go through it. So don't worry, I'm really inspired by your determination and by your commitment to continued service. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so next question is from Varsha Mataji. Varsha Mataji, can you please kindly unmute?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. I'm Varsana Devi Dasi. Prabhuji, I have a problem that I have read Srimad Bhagavatam before. 2 years ago, I completed. And I thought this is wonderful to revise it once again. But when I read it, Prabhuji, it seems that I'm reading it for the first time. And right. I forget, you see, the names especially. You see, the crust of the thing I will remember, but the names which come there, I mix it up and forget. Is there any better way of reading?
We can definitely, Mataji, remember whatever best we can, because Krishna says, Matta Smritir Jnanam Apavanam. So remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness are all given by Krishna. But even if we are not able to remember all the names and technicalities, if we are appreciative and we are able to connect with the characters of Bhagavatam, then we have captured the essence of Bhagavatam. We have to understand that scriptures are not ordinary books. So the way ordinary books we read and we memorize and we write and we get marks, that is not the same with the scriptures. The classical example is that, that Brahmana in Srirangam, which Prabhupada often quotes in many of his lectures. This Brahmana in Srirangam, when Mahaprabhu had gone there, and he was trying to read Gita, he was not knowing Sanskrit. Some say he was holding it upside down, whatever, he was trying to read with broken words. And others were laughing at him. But, when Mahaprabhu came, Mahaprabhu saw that the person not able to read well, but he's still trying and still crying. He's trying and he's crying. So Mahaprabhu was surprised that, what are you doing? He said, I'm trying to read Bhagavad Gita. So he said, why are you, reading Gita if you are not illiterate? He says, this is my Guru's order. What was that verse? He says that, I'm forgetting that verse. Murkhami. Vipra kahe murkhami shabdarth nahi jani. The Brahmana said, I am a fool. Shabdarth nahi jani. I don't understand words and their meaning. विप्र कहे मूर्ख आमी शब्दार्थ नहीं जानी, शुद्ध अशुद्ध गीता पढ़ी गुरु आज्ञा मानी. So शुद्ध अशुद्ध I am reading sometime well, sometime ashuddha means I am not understanding the right thing. Guru Agya Mani, I am following the order of my Guru, that is all. And Mahaprabhu said, you have understood the essence of Bhagavad Gita. And all these scholars are there, they can give one word, they can give lecture for 3 days, they have not understood. So please understand that the essence of scripture is to increase our devotion and our faith in the Lord, in the devotees and in the Ashram. So when we read Bhagavatam, we realize that how much the Prabhupada struggled to write the purports, how he traveled all throughout and how much faith he had in Bhagavatam, how all our acharyas have been commentary on Bhagavatam, and how so many Bhagavatam sets have been distributed and people's lives are getting benefited. And then we have appreciation for Bhagavatam and the hard work which has gone behind to print it. And then when we are reading a section of Bhagavatam, then we relate to that and we appreciate them, even if we are not like that. Suppose we are reading teachings of Queen Kunti. So we develop appreciation for Queen Kunti, that what a lady. I mean, who among us can even think about that? Can you think about that? Her husband passed away. She didn't say anything. She just accepted it. Then she had 5 sons, and the sons were always being put in trouble right from the childhood. Bhima was fed poison and was put in the water. And then as they grew up, they were sent into the house of black, So then they were attempted to be burned. Then, her daughter-in-law, she was disrobed, and then her sons were put into forest for 12 years. I mean, just see how much suffering, and still she's saying, Vipata Santu Tasha, bad calamities come again and again. Can anyone else think like that? So we may not be at that level, but we appreciate the level of the characters of Bhagavatam. Then we derive great strength. Krishna becomes very free. So when we read Bhagavatam, we read in a way to develop appreciation for the people involved. And whatever we are reading, at that time we are reading, that time we are remembering, that time we are appreciating. Fine, later on something will remain, something will not remain. Just like we eat prasadam every day. So 1 week back what we ate, we don't know. We may not remember what we ate. But we ate something, that's why we are today hearing the session. Right? And sometimes we may eat items which we may not know the recipe. Most of the time, most of the things which we eat, we don't even know. We may never make in our life. Like people like pizzas. Pizzas are very famous these days. But hardly people know the recipe of pizza and hardly they can make pizza. But they order pizza and they eat. And similarly, many items like that. So, yes, we may not remember, we may not be able to recall so well. That's all right. As long as we have the appreciation for the literature, Bhagavatam, for Prabhupada's sacrifice, for Acharya's mercy, and also for the characters of Bhagavatam, what we are reading, then it's perfect. That is always within our reach. And whatever we can remember by Krishna mercy, Krishna can make us remember everything, every single word of all the 18,000 verses, or Krishna cannot even make us remember one word that. But if our gratitude is increasing, if our connection to Krishna is increasing, if our appreciation for the characters is increasing, appreciation for the relation between Bhagavan and Bhakta is increasing. How Narasimhadev protected Prahlad Maharaj, how Vamandev protected Bali Maharaj. So this essence of Bhagavatam is in the relationship between the Lord and the devotee. So if that is increasing, then that is success. And somebody may know, somebody may be a great scholar. We have the example of Devanand Pandit in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He knew Bhagavatam so well. But then Mahaprabhu Mahaprabhu wanted to tear off his Bhagavatam. Mahaprabhu was so angry with him. Mahaprabhu said, you don't understand even a single word of Bhagavatam. And he was such a scholar. In those days, if that would have been a Facebook, WhatsApp, or YouTube channel, then he would have been a #1 person. Subscriptions would have been like, thousands and millions. So he was so famous. Thousands of people will come to hear from him. And Mahaprabhu told, you don't understand even one word of Bhagavatam. So please understand that Vedic literature is not at all about memorizing, about remembering alone. If we can, by Krishna's grace, well and good. If we can't, no issue at all. It's all about developing personal feelings and gratitude for the Lord and the devotee. That is the essence. So you have that essence, that's why you're wonderful. Okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. And your answer has really satisfied me to a very much extent. And Prabhuji, the Brahmana, the shloka which he said, is it possible for you to send it to us?
I will send it to, how do I send it? I will take some time.
You can send it to Prabhuji and Prabhuji can send it to us on the WhatsApp.
You can find it out. No? It's in Madhya Leela.
Yes, Prabhuji.
You give me, Prabhuji, Madhya Leela?
No, I will have to search it, but I'm saying it's not so difficult to find.
We will send. We'll send it in the WhatsApp group, Mataji. I hope
Thank you
are
so much, Prabhuji. Dandat Pranam, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Shall we continue at 9:30 now? What is your plan? I'm sorry, I'm making a little elaborated.
No, Prabhuji, it's up to you, Prabhuji. So there are a couple of questions I could see on the Zoom chat. We can take that if your time permits. Otherwise,
something my devotee has not been answered. The new thing on chat you can ask. Otherwise, I think we'll stop at 9:30. I also had another meeting, so I will be proceeding with that. And I'm really happy with the enthusiasm of all of you to be, so absorbed and so much inquiring. It's like really delighting session.
I see. Yeah, two questions. Basically,
Okay.
it is the same. Like they're asking, please explain the difference between expansion and the incarnation of the Lord.
Okay. Yeah. This will come in the next section also. So maybe we will not go in detail. So incarnation is that the Lord Himself, like there is this technicality, Amsha, Kala. What? Let us see how much it gets covered in the next part, because next part is incarnations of Krishna. But
Okay.
still, let me just tell a little bit about that. Expansions are when Krishna takes another, another what I can say. Let me just put it in words. We can say that expansions are there in the spiritual world. Krishna has all the expansion, other forms. For example, Rama the Murtishu Kala Niyamena Chant. So he expands as Balaram, he expands as Lord Ram, he expands as Parashurama, and they all are there in the spiritual world. They have their own planets, they're devoted that. Incarnation is only eligible, only Krishna's, Krishna is called the incarnation when he comes on this planet. They are then not called expansions, are eternally there in the spiritual realm. And incarnations are Krishna's forms when he manifests in the material world for the benefit of the conditioned souls. So this is one of the very distinct and understandable things. Whoever has asked a question, I don't know, in the chat, that incarnation means that when Krishna appears in the material realm and taking some form, then it is called incarnation. And the same form in the spiritual world, that is called an expansion. For example, say Narayana. Narayana is there in the spiritual world, that is expansion. And the same Narayana may come here in the form of, say, Varah Dev or Kurma Avatar, then it becomes an incarnation. So incarnation means Lord's form as he manifests in the material world for the benefit of the conditioned souls, for them to come back to him. So that is incarnation. Incarnations are only in the material realm. Expansions are there in the spiritual realm. So that is one distinct thing. There are little more technicalities, but this one is like a very broad and understandable distinction. More will be discussed in the next part, because it's all discussing about the avatars in the next chapter.
Okay, sure. So I would like to thank you, Prabhuji, wholeheartedly for giving us your time. And I would also like to thank all the participants that they joined us this Friday morning, 8 to 9:30, and we have a fruitful session. I hope this will inspire you to read the chapter 2, which we're going to start tomorrow, and you will get the reading target. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
So thank you all very much for your kind attention and time. I'm very happy, delighted to have a very enthusiastic audience here that I listen on this chapter, and I tried my very best to answer your queries. If there are any limitations, you can further refer to Madan Sundar Prabhu. He is very expert, learned, knowledgeable, experienced, mature devotee. So with him also you can connect, and we will meet maybe next week or whenever things come. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Mataji, I'll just get you the words for you, just 1 minute. Just get it. I'll get it right away. I'll just tell you the number.